Hi everyone, welcome back to Connecting the Dots. This morning, I'm actually in my childhood home with my mom on the couch in arguably our favorite spot. And I'm really excited for this conversation. This is the third time that my mom has been on the show. She's made an appearance every season. So we had to think of something a little bit more in depth or creative for this round since she shared so much of her story and the advice that she would give to parents trying to transition into a cleaner house. Today, we're actually going to be chatting about the complexity of mother-daughter relationships. And based on our experience, we are not by any means experts, but I think that we have a pretty good relationship. And I know that it can be really tough to have a strong relationship with your mom or with your daughter. So we're just going to chat about it. But before we get into it, Mom, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Gail Carney, Kathleen's mom. This is going to be an interesting topic. Lots of bumps, lots of highs, lots of lows. Yeah. So I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. I am a business owner with my husband. We have an industrial supply company. We have 2 locations, one north of the state, one south of the state. Keeps us really busy. That's my day. And my hobby now is designing shirts, here and there, but it's my creative outlet to get away from the daily routine.
Totally. And she is a Pilates star.
Yes.
She does Pilates a lot. And that has kind of been the community that she's kind of been building this t-shirt, sweatshirt business around. They love her designs. How did you get into that?
Well, at our Pilates studios, they do a lot of themes. And at Christmas time, every day leading up to Christmas was a different theme. And I was like, well, I don't really have anything.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I have a silhouette machine or Cricut based on what you use that I can start designing. So I started digging into easier ways, faster ways to do it. And, just started coming up with my own design. So on Valentine's Day, I said, I'm going to have a design for Valentine's Day. And that's how it was created.
Yeah. And it's been taking off. The people love it.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
That is fun. And I get to reap the benefits. I get a little shirt or sweatshirt with the design for every season.
Yeah, I try to change it from Pilates to yoga.
So fun. As you know, I've been starting every episode this season asking guests what is a daily ritual or habit of yours?
First thing when I get up, first thing I do is make my bed. Then I tongue scrape, oil pull, and then I start my morning routine based on whatever I'm doing. It's either shower or Pilates, whatever I'm doing in the morning. So that daily routine sort of changes. A lot of times I go to Pilates with my serum on the face and oils in my hair pulled up, just to get all that in. If I'm here, I just start, the laundry and routine, get my lemon water first, then some tea. And that's pretty much the daily routine.
Nice. Love it.
And then it goes on, but if you have any questions, I can fill you in, but it changes based on what, if I'm going into the office first thing or working out, it kind of changes.
Yeah. Well, good to be flexible and
Yes.
good to know that you don't have to be so rigid with every little step.
Yeah. But that's the, consistency.
Yeah. Why do you make your bed first thing?
If I don't, I just look at it and I feel unorganized. It's just a start. And the other one is the laundry. I've got to get a load of laundry in the morning. If I could do those 2 things, I feel like I'm starting my day a little organized.
My dad jokes that you wash clean things just to get a load of laundry.
So not true. It's just funny with the two people. It's amazing. And I think with just for me, with the working out and the work and yeah, it just
Yeah.
piles up. I feel like I change 3 or 4 times a day.
You got a couple different outfits.
Yep.
Totally. So, want to dive into our topic for today, mother-daughter relationships. And I think before we kind of share a little bit more about ours and some things that we've done, I think that have been helpful to having a positive relationship, wanted to kind of chat about like why from our experience, like I said, we're not experts, but like what we've seen and heard, why they can be so challenging.
Well, I know just from our experience is the communication. When you don't communicate, or a little communication, it's hard to interpret. And I think it gets a lot of times miscommunicated. And if anybody's like me, I internalize a lot. Oh, she said, and does this what? And so we have definitely had to work on, sometimes we'll talk and I'll have to think about it and then we'll have to revisit the conversation. And most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, it's not even, we just miscommunicated.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that happens a lot. And if you fester and don't revisit it, it can really turn into a big deal that should never have been.
Yeah, I agree. I think that has definitely been where some of our struggles have lied, and just kind of assuming that we know what the other person meant, and usually you don't actually know.
That's right. And like I said, most of the time it's not even what they meant. And a lot of times I feel like I have a hard time communicating exactly what I mean. I know what I mean and how I feel. And sometimes I can come off a little bit harsh or not explain it. I don't know. I just sometimes I feel like my communication is not exactly what I meant to say. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean that's why you can continue to communicate until you figure out
Right.
what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Totally. I think that I've seen and heard a lot of experiences of people's moms putting like so much on them and kind of trying to like live vicariously through them and wanting them to have better or do better or fill in the blank, but it can turn into this kind of like toxic relationship of what if that's not exactly what I want to do, or what if it doesn't feel like it's good enough, or whatever. So from a mom's perspective, have you experienced that?
Oh, I
What is that
definitely
like?
fell into that trap
Yeah.
because growing up, we played 3 sports or whatever, or had our summers. We didn't have this, oh my gosh, you've got to play club sports. And I definitely, if I could change anything, it pushed that. Like, oh my gosh, you've got to do the Friday night training because if you don't do that, you're not a serious athlete. And I feel like a lot of my insecurities when I would grow up, I definitely put on you. You can do better. and I feel like I had unrealistic expectations on you. Did you feel
Really?
that? Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I think that I just never really cared about sports like that much. And that's not to say that I don't respect people that love sports and are like, this is my passion, this is what I live for. But I was just kind of like, it's just a game. Why do I have to be putting in hours and hours of my time? Like, I don't know. To me personally, I did not care about it nearly enough. I think when I did catch glimpses of caring about it was when I got to a second tryout for the best soccer team, or was on varsity and was like, okay, like this is actually cool.
It was so frustrating. And I think from your dad and I, we're very competitive and want to do and want to, and it
Yeah.
was frustrating because it was a constant battle. And, I wish I could have been just like you, but whatever. If you want to play, great. Instead of running around and asking all the other parents, what do we do? And what's the next? Instead of just chilling, parents, chill out. It's not all that. If they want to do the extra training, they'll let you know.
And I don't mean to sound ungrateful because I do know that it did matter and it helped the trajectory that I was on, the teams that I was playing on, getting to be play on varsity sports. Like I know that it helped and it was good. I think that I just like never really understood like the why behind it all. And I'm such a why person. Like I was very competitive in academics and
Mhm.
like really wanted to get the best grade on a test. But to me, I knew why, right? Like college was the
Right.
goal. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to a really good school. So like the why behind those things. And I guess if athletics is going to help you get to a good school, then that is your why. I think I always knew that I didn't want to play sports in college.
Yeah.
So I think it was just harder for me to like be motivated in that way.
Yeah.
Aside from just like wanting to be part of a team,
Right.
enjoying
Right.
that
It was
aspect.
and realistically, the reason we wanted to do that was, to be on a team and know different kids. Because the best part about all that, it was that you played with all kids from all different schools.
Yeah.
You knew kids from every school in this area, and it was nice.
No, it is cool. And it's still cool. Like I don't keep up with every person I played middle school soccer with, but there's a lot of people that if I see them, we catch up or online, we're still like excited about it. And that is a cool part of just having a wider
Yeah.
network.
And that whole saying too is you want your kids to have a better life than you have. You want
Mhm.
them to succeed and have maybe a little easier. I don't know if it was a little easier, but I think that's part of the push too.
I think in a lot of ways it was way easier. Like I never had to want for anything, but I think that the expectations were higher.
Absolutely. Everywhere from
Right.
everyone, not just
No, no, not
us.
just you. I mean, just in life.
Because Joe, your dad and I used to be like, oh my gosh, I mean, I don't know how many times I should say this. If you wake up tomorrow, the world's not going to end. If don't do X, Y, and Z. And, it was just crazy, now thinking about it, the sports and the club sports, and then coming home and eating and being up at 4 or whatever you get up and do
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems crazy now.
I mean, yeah, like to this day, high school was still the hardest academic experience I've ever had. And I went to college and I have two master's degrees.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
That's great. I mean, that far exceeded anything
Um, but yeah, it is wild what the pressures they put, that are put upon kids now. And thinking about like that whole SAT scandal of hiring
oh,
somebody to rig the system just so perfectly intelligent and wonderful kids can get into college.
yeah, that's
I mean, it's just wild. And I just remember my high school was a college prep school. So that was very much from day one what you're working toward. And just, oh, you have to volunteer. We set that into the school. You have to play a sport a year because that's important for college. You have to do good in school. That's just like baseline. That's not even
all
anything
the other
else.
stuff.
And we're preparing you for college was the motto when we had so much work and so many tests and the amount of reading that we had to do every single night. But my mom said of getting up at 4 a.m., like, there was just no way to fit it all into the day. I mean, I guess probably if I wasn't social and didn't like want to talk to people and date and be a kid, but I was like, I'm not missing out on that. But I know so many people in my high school who did.
Right. I know. I know. And that's the thing as a parent, you hear all the chatter. Like my kids are doing this and you start getting the anxiety like, oh my God, do I need just like the SAT prep. Oh my gosh, we've got to set you up and take the SAT prep course. Now you need to take
Yeah.
you just hear all this stuff and I just, you can't change it, but if I could, I would just been more relaxed about it because really in the whole scheme, whatever college you go to is going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I got into a great
You got
school.
and you were able to continue your education and you pick the right school for you and
I think most of the time it works out if you're trying.
right. Yeah, there has to be some motivation and some support. But I mean, was it necessary in elementary school for me to make your test?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like I said, I was very competitive in school. That was where I wanted to be the best for sure. And there were a couple subjects throughout the years. Like one were these stupid vocabulary quizzes in middle school that I just could not get down, which is so strange as a writer who excels in vocabulary. Those tests just, I don't know what type of learning disability I have, but
It's just the way they were worded sometimes.
yeah,
You gotta
yeah, that and there are a couple other subjects where my mom would be like, "All right, like we're gonna practice."
I'd make up tests.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but that was really helpful,
Yeah.
and it made me feel a lot more confident going into those tests that eventually brought me so much anxiety.
Mhm.
And I would say too, like, I know that you probably felt like you were putting a lot of pressure on, but I think you and dad did a really good job of telling me to chill out when I think I probably put the most pressure
Oh,
on myself.
you definitely did. We're like, where'd she get that? Where's she getting that? Definitely not for me. Maybe Joe your dad a little more because he's very intelligent.
It's for you.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, I felt like you both always did a good job of being like a B is great.
Right.
Like you worked really hard for that. It was more just about the effort that I put in for you guys. And I think going back to earlier with sports, I think part of your frustration was like you knew I didn't want to be there a lot of the times versus me getting up at 4 a.m. to study for a test. Right. Like, a B is fine when you're working yourself
Yeah.
ragged.
Well, it's just like if you're committing to something, the sports that you were playing and the clubs that you were playing on, it was known if you don't do this, then you're not serious enough. And it was just frustrating because you knew you could do it and you saw that you were good, but you weren't serious because you didn't want to. And it was just frustrating to me because it's like, just go. And you'd fight me. Okay.
Yeah, one thing about me, it's very hard to get me to do things that I don't want to do.
True that. Yes.
Along other lines of why I think mother-daughter relationships can be so hard is the toxic or the learned thoughts and habits that moms can pass down. And that can be like from a health and nutrition perspective, dieting and having negative body image. I know so many people whose moms commented on their bodies growing up, or they just watched their mom talk about themselves and were like, oh, well, if my mom feels this way about her body, then what is she thinking about mine? And that is just really tough.
And that's something I think that's just passed down generation to generation. I mean, we hear it. My mom was always on some kind of crazy diet. I mean, she didn't make it like, oh, she never was like, I don't like my body, but she was always on some crazy diet. She tried every new thing that came down the line. So I was very aware of that. So I tried not to bring that into the house.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like a diet that we were always on.
Well,
Um,
how you looked was never the motivating
no, it was
factor.
how I felt.
Yeah.
And your whole life, because it started before you were born, is going on a healthier path.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that's kind of all you knew. Like I said, it wasn't a diet; it was just our way of life. Is
Yeah.
that what you would call it?
Well, yeah, no, I don't ever remember you or dad ever commenting on my body or hearing you guys talk about yours. I mean, the only thing I've ever heard dad say is like at this point in life, him trying to put on more weight.
Oh God,
So
I know. It's just, and the thing with dad is he wants me to eat as much as he does, and I'm like, I don't need. He'll make her dinner sometimes, and then give me the same amount on my plate as. But I know we've talked in other episodes about our food, and
yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, no, I don't think it was ever
no,
about that. And it just has made me sad hearing my friends' experiences with that and just the amount of value people put on how you look and the measures that you have to go to achieve it.
yeah. It's just not sustainable, really.
No, yeah.
I mean, you can do it for a little while, but it's just not mentally healthy.
All right.
Yeah.
And then other, I think, toxic or difficult thoughts and habits that we've seen is like trauma, putting like your experiences on your child. And I think in a lot of moms' cases, they're trying to do it in like a positive way. Like, I want to protect you or prevent what happened to me to happen to you. But a lot of times it just feels very restrictive.
Well, we're taking our fears and instilling. And I used to have a hard time with you going out, where are you going to be? And I don't know how our parents did it without phones, very much text me when you get there. And you just have to let that go because you are instilling fear. And I think you had fear. Do you think a little bit?
Not about going out.
No, but no, I think you have fear about things that not
Yeah.
necessary, just not necessary.
Yeah.
But that was kind of instilled on me. My parents were always very, I don't know, fearful, but so you always kind of got that anxious feeling. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I had to really work on that to let that go and let you, I'd say when you went to college, it just was like, I got to let it go. I can't in my head worry about what's going to happen. You just have to live. That's when you do have to find the positive
Yeah.
and know that you did everything you could and you'll make the right choices, hopefully. But it is, instilling and bringing those fears. I definitely did.
I think in a way, I think I've always been on alert, which I don't necessarily think is always a bad thing. But I think in the same vein, instead of being the type of parents who were so fearful and so like, we need to know every little thing and we need to be there, and there's XYZ activities that you're just never allowed to do. You weren't those
No.
parents at all. And I think it was helpful. Yes, there were some things that crossed your boundaries that you and dad did not love. But I think for the most part, you were able to foster a relationship of trust of like, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. You might
That's
not
true.
be the happiest that it's a party thrown by a junior and I'm a freshman, and you might not be pleased by it, but like, here's our safe ride home. This is what's happening. This is who I'm going with. And at least I'm not lying to you about it.
Well, and that was always our rule. You can always call, and we'd rather know the truth, because if you lie, you lose that trust and respect, and you don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
So it may be hard, and we might not like it, but we'll get through it. And your dad was very good about talking things out if he didn't like it. something, he was very good about addressing it right away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I feel like I was very good, lack of a better word, about getting really mad when you were doing the most.
Oh, you did not like no. Do not. Oh my gosh. No was not. Oh, the things. Thursday. I want to have my class over for pictures before the dance or whatever. And I'm just like, what? I'm working. I've got a life. And then her dad would be, why can't oh boy. Yeah. The no was that's hard to take.
Yeah, it's true. I did not like to be told no. Maybe that's an only child thing. Maybe that's a me thing. I don't know.
We always said she's gonna be a lawyer because she negotiates everything. Everything's a negotiation.
Oh, I remember writing PowerPoints and
Mhm.
papers to try and convince you for things.
Oh, I know. I do know.
In fairness, with the like pictures before the dances, one of the reasons why I waited till the last minute because I was hoping somebody else's parents would step up, but then it would be like the week of the dance, and I'd be like, nobody's having pictures. Like, guess we're gonna do it.
But yeah, no, no, it's not. But it was good. It always pushed me out of my comfort zone a little bit because you can get a little complacent, but it worked.
Yeah,
We
and
did it.
they did it. And I think that the last behavior that I've noticed that is really frustrating for daughters is parent moms specifically that are really selfish. And I mean, I've never felt that you or dad were selfish in any capacity, really. So, what advice do you have in that arena?
Oh boy. Yikes. Um, well, it's hard for me to answer that because I feel like when it came to you, I was such a softie, because there were times I wanted to be selfish and say, hey, but I guess what I'd say on that is it's a blink. That time that your kids are home, it's a blink. And there are times you need to be selfish, but
Right.
for the most part, I think you just got to have to go with it and enjoy it, enjoy the ride. Because I know with you, just like I was saying, you did pull me out of my comfort zone a lot, but I learned a lot and I met a lot of people, and I have great relationships with your friend. I adore your friends, and that may not have never would have happened
Yeah.
because getting ready here, they stayed here, they were here, and I'd be the one, getting things ready, and they'd help, and I just you've got a great group of friends, and I may never have gotten to know them. And I think it's so important to know who your kids' friends are
Yeah.
and who's influencing, because let's face it, they do influence each other. Um so I don't know, take a breath and enjoy it because it is goes so fast.
Yeah. I agree. And it is nice now to be able to say, I think pretty much everybody that I've known, except for maybe like my newest friends, know you and dad and
Mhm.
have a relationship with you both and have always felt comfortable being here. And
I hope so. Yeah. And I've never felt like, oh my gosh, I've got to, stay in another room. I mean, it's just very comfortable.
yeah.
Your friends are family.
So we kind of spent a lot of the conversation kind of here, but we touched on a lot of points that we wanted to, which is great. I did want to share, we were kind of talking about what is a healthy relationship or what can hinder that. And so the definition I found of a healthy mother daughter relationship is one that allows for closeness and togetherness, but at the same time for independence and space. I think that has been challenging at times.
Oh yeah. Well, now it's
I mean,
not an issue.
no, I agree.
Kaplan moved to the furthest.
Yeah.
I'm teasing. But I think it's been great with that you do, because it does, we touch base. I think if you lived here, we may not touch base as much and communicate as much. But
Maybe.
going back, I don't know, but going back to space, and yeah, it's hard. I think a mother-daughter, it's there's a line. There's the best friend, then there's the daughter, and then there's the mother, and interesting. I don't know if you want to touch on our theta healing, which Kathleen had told me that the theta healer, one of the things was, we've kind of switched roles where Kathleen has become more, I want to say the mom, but
yeah, it's not the case.
I don't know, but and I got thinking, like, well, I'm the mom. That's not really true, but just spending a week with Kathleen and just being very observant with it, where I definitely have, I think over the years, the battles just weren't worth it anymore. And it's just, well, what do you want to do? And what do you think? And, I definitely have strong opinions. And if I want to do or eat or whatever, I definitely voice. But if I don't, I sort of look to Kathleen, and now as being the nutritionist and the health coach, I was the researcher and I didn't know. And I feel like I've become more relaxed, and I call Kathleen, and it's been more like, well, what do you think before I do anything now? And I thought, wow, that kind of has flip-flopped.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm answering your question or the struggles.
There was no
Oh,
question. I
okay.
was defining a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
So
Where, like I said, going back to the friend and the mom growing up, as you got older, it sort of did get a little blurred, to where I don't know if that affected you more, depending or looking you more as a friend than a mom, or
no,
no.
I don't think that I felt like we were friends, quote unquote. Like, we always had a good relationship. I always told you what was going on,
Right.
for the most part. Like, unless it was something I was like, I don't think I should know on that.
Which would eventually come out eventually.
Yeah, like at this point, I don't think that there's anything that I haven't told you. But like, in terms of like my mom being my friend who I'm calling for like advice with friends or with boys or whatever, we did not have that relationship until I was an adult.
Yes.
And I think that that's good. Like, I don't think that when you're in high school or even college, your mom needs to be your best friend.
And I don't, yes, I didn't want to, I don't want to take on all that. I feel like when you were little, oh my gosh, you'd get in the car and I'd hear the whole day, everything. And the next day my stomach's still, churning, and she's on to something else. And it was beautiful that we had that relationship, but it was also tough. But college, I didn't want.
You definitely didn't want to know. No.
As needed basis, definitely. And I feel like in college, we sort of, I don't want to say separated, because that's not the case, but you definitely lived your life. And I really got more involved into the business and my life. And we touched base, but it wasn't.
It wasn't as much as we do now.
No, not at all.
But I think part of that is why I really like this definition is I have always wanted to be really independent. And like always wanted, which is so funny now because I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I want that so badly? I'm like, I would love for just somebody to like take care of me and tell me what to do. Probably not, actually, but yeah. But I'm sure as a business owner and someone who's starting a family, and I'm making all the decisions all the time, and it's a lot.
Well, that's what we were just talking about being with Kathleen. I said, it's not that I can't make it the decision, but I didn't want to.
Yeah.
When I'm home, I'm making every decision from the time I wake up to how my day is looking like and what I'm eating. It was so nice to be like,
You're right.
hey, I don't care.
Oh,
Whatever.
it's so nice. So it's just funny. Like I wanted this independence so badly. I wanted to be able to, I just remember like talking on the phone with my friend and being like, it's just so annoying. Why can't I do what I want? Like, I know I trust myself. I know, I'm going to be fine. It's not that big of a deal. Like, just being so frustrated. And I think that college was really that first experience where I really did get like that independence and got to see what it was like to excel and be like really rewarded and really welcomed by a community and feel like this is where I belong for, I don't want to say the first time, but like the first time on my own doing it by myself. And also a lot of experiences to fall flat on my face and be like, oh, that was not.
And it's hard because a lot of the things it would be, well, I wouldn't do it that way.
Yeah.
But there was no telling you. So I think once I realized I just got to let it go. If
Yeah.
she's asking my opinion or wants my help, I'm there.
Yeah.
But, the best I could. If I found like if there was something dangerous, then, I definitely stepped in. But
I wasn't really
no,
dabbling in-
no, I'm just saying I would. But for the most part, it's like, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Give me a call.
Yeah. I think that is, when we're talking about kind of butting heads middle school and high school, I think it really did stem a lot from just me wanting to be independent way too early.
Yeah, you just weren't ready.
No.
Your brain's not fully developed.
No.
And been there, done that,
I mean, like I wanted to go to boarding school. Like that's how much I was like, I'm so ready to just be.
I know. And in a sense, I was ready for you to, not to be mean, but I was ready because it was hard. And I'm glad it didn't work out that way because I didn't, nobody should give up their responsibilities. But part of me is like, oh gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that is where our struggles were. And I think that at the end of the day, like I always knew that like it was going to be okay if I messed up or did something wrong. I never was like, I mean, I didn't enjoy telling you and dad. I wasn't like, oh, I'm so excited. But the fear was never like, oh my gosh, they're going to disown me or hate me or whatever.
I mean, a lot of the time, not a lot, but sometimes I did overreact.
Don't feel that way when
No.
I like truly messed up.
Oh yeah.
Like little things,
stuff.
sure. But
Yes.
like when I truly was like, I fucked up, I never felt like
No. Yeah.
you or dad ever.
No, it was just the daily, the slamming of the door, or just the back and forth, and
Little tiffs.
because we're both a little hard headed.
And I think that you also have been a really good role model for doing the right thing, even when it sucks or is hard. And I'm really grateful for that. And I know that sometimes growing up, I'm like, why are you so insistent? Oh, it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And I'm like, oh, the right thing sucks sometimes.
Yeah, but I tried to minimize those battles. But yes, it just felt like it was on a daily basis with something just pushing.
Yeah.
When I have a bunch of friends and I want to watch, we're 7th grade and we want to watch an R-rated movie, and I'm like, hell no.
Yeah.
And just the the back and forth. I'm not being responsible, somebody else's parents, but I'm not doing it. It doesn't feel comfortable, things like that. Just the pushing, how much more
Yeah.
can I do?
And I think parenting in the age that I grew up is really challenging because we had access to these modalities that you didn't. And so it's very hard to know what is the right choice when you didn't have that experience yourself.
It's true.
And I can only imagine what the parent channels were saying about cell phones and the internet and social media and just all the things.
Yeah, and that was hard, I think, because the consistency of it. Like you start out with the cell phone and you're gonna take it out of your room. And then, then you have a study buddy and you're on the phone, and then it's midnight and you're working on a project, and I just felt like all that was so inconsistent. The rules. It was hard to set rules that it was consistent. I mean, did you feel that frustration where we would set a rule and then it sort of,
I
you know what I
it
mean?
usually worked out in my favor, so I definitely was not complaining about it. But I will say, I don't think I really realized it growing up, but I do looking back of, well, then in middle school, it was mandatory to have a laptop.
Oh, yeah.
So then we're all making MySpaces and Facebooks, and we're all figuring out how to hack the firewall at school so that we can do whatever we want
Right.
on our computers in school. Like, very just things that how would you even be thinking about, and what are you going to do? We have to use it for
Right.
school, and you just have to hope that your kid is doing it the right way. Like,
And then what are we supposed to do? Stand over them the whole time to make sure they're only doing, and it's that stuff. Like I said, you start out, they bring it home, and it's like, okay, you can only use it between this and this time and only for this. But I don't know. It just,
yeah, no, it's tough.
yeah, yeah, it is.
And I think the last thing that I really not the last thing, but something I wanted to touch on that I really appreciated was that I know that sometimes you really wanted to push me further, but I never felt like that there was something that I couldn't do.
I agree with that. I
And
knew, I wouldn't have pushed you with anything if I knew you weren't capable.
yeah, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So still feel that way. It's like if I want to do something, I don't think that I can't do it.
I don't either. And no, I'll always be your biggest cheerleader. Oh, I know you can. And you're one that you set your mind to something. And just like anybody, we have to believe because we all have the capabilities. It's just the
Totally.
fear that we can't. And I'm the worst at that. Oh, I don't have time for that. I don't have, I can't do that. That's
Yeah.
I in all fairness, I think I've been told that my whole life.
Mhm.
You're not good at that. You shouldn't be doing that. And I feel like maybe I pushed a lot because I never wanted you to feel that way.
Well, I never did.
Yeah.
So at least that's a positive
Because
pushing.
I know you did have a couple teachers. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Me and Alyssa talked about it in our podcast episode. We had the same teacher tell us that we were bad at science.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
now we're both in the health field.
Yeah. And that's something that a teacher should never be telling anyone.
No.
You may not be great, but that doesn't mean you're not going to be great.
Right.
That's a lesson learned.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I kind of, well, at home, I feel like I did you a disservice with that. Although I think I did that because I wanted you to focus on other things, but I can do that, I can do that better.
Yeah. I mean, I think that with the type of schools that you sent me to, for better or for worse, like education was a family.
It was.
It was part of our nightly routine. Like I
Mhm.
never could have gotten through all of the projects that I had to do in middle school and elementary school, and all of the studying and papers and projects that I had to do in high school without help.
Yeah.
Not saying that you did anything for me, like that's not true. You never.
Well, Mrs. Bundenson, second grade. I mean, that was her thing. She did projects for family projects.
Right.
That was her part of her
Right.
her education.
Yeah, I mean,
Your
also
education.
as a fifth grader who's going to Michael's and buying all their own supplies for building random crap. Like,
I know, but over Christmas holiday, I
right.
love to build like some play thing. And it was like, oh,
Yeah. In those aspects, of course, I didn't do everything by
right,
myself. I couldn't. I was
right.
8, like,
Yeah.
whatever. More so in high school, I think you and dad did try to take a lot off of my
Mhm.
plate
Yeah.
when you could, because there was a lot on it.
Yeah. It
Um,
is true. It is true.
on-
But now with like you and Luke, he'll make comments like, she doesn't know how to do.
I do not have many household skills.
That's what I was saying. But like in fairness, you didn't have time, and it was easier just to do it.
Right. Yeah. That's more of what I was saying. Like,
Yeah.
you guys never did anything for me for like high school academics or whatever
Yes.
in that aspect, but there was a lot of things from the home
Right.
that you took off
Yeah.
my plate. Like, I never had to think about food or cleaning or chores
Right.
or
Your
whatever.
laundry.
Yeah. Yeah. So unfortunately, Luke is getting the short end of the stick.
You're doing great though. I mean, every time I go visit, it's like, wow, she did learn.
But yeah, like college prep school, you don't have home ec. I don't know how to sew, or I don't know. I feel like there's just so many like life skills that I don't have.
Oh, and it's just, we're getting off the topic a little bit, but in middle school, we had to take home ec and sewing, and we learned all those skills. And I didn't mind any of it because I loved all those classes. I thought they were fun, and I learned.
Yeah,
And I think they need to bring that stuff back.
I think so, because it's really hard. This sounds so privileged, but it is hard becoming an adult when everything that you've just been focused on is school, 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 school. And then now it's not just job, job, job. It's also
Balancing
surviving, being a person.
right, and balancing it all. I think that's the organization which you have, but just being able to balance everything, because if there's chaos in one area, it's hard.
Yeah.
If the dishes are piling and you don't know what you're eating, I mean, it just takes too much time.
Yeah.
So there's such a balance. And I think, schools, you need to get back to it, teaching teaching life skills too.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got on that subject, but anyway.
It's fine. And I'm sure many people can relate. And I think it makes sense for what we were talking about at the beginning of just the expectations that are put on people. Like, it's kind of insane that I don't know when in the day I would have fit in doing my own laundry.
I don't know.
Like, between all of the commitments.
Oh, we thought it was just crazy. I mean, even for us, going from one sport and then club this one and getting home at 8, and then, oh my gosh.
That one year that I played 2 club sports and then 3 sports at school, I lost like 20 pounds.
I know. You were
and I was
tiny.
I was eating, but it was just running nonstop. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. Crazy.
But
And
that's
that's when I'd find you, with 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Doing your homework. I'd be like, this is nuts.
Yeah, this
This
is not
is
gonna
nuts.
work. And it
Yeah.
didn't.
It didn't. Not for long.
We stopped that. But did want to wrap up the conversation by just sharing. I think we've been sprinkling in some nuggets and wisdom and advice, but how we've kind of been able to foster such a good relationship, and knowing that in middle school and high school particularly, I would not say that we had a stellar relationship. I don't think it was ever like I'd be like, I
No.
hate my mom, or our
No.
relationship is bad. I mean, like, when we were in a fight, sure,
Yes.
but like, my
No.
overall feelings towards you were never like, my mom is the worst for XYZ reason.
Right.
But I think we've had to work really hard to get to where we are now, where it's just easy.
Yeah, definitely. It took a lot.
Yeah.
And like I said, the communication piece is key.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's uncomfortable, but speak how you feel,
Right.
and you understand when I
Mhm.
speak and get emotional, but
Yeah.
it's just and it's out of love. It's really out of love.
Yeah. I think that one, if your mom can't say it to you or your daughter can't say it to you, then who can?
Right.
Like, if you're going to get really upset by somebody telling you the truth or their opinion, and it's someone who might be a really close person to you, I know not all relationships are like that, then who can give you that advice or criticism?
Right.
And knowing that I hope it's always best intention.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, we all speak out of anger sometimes, but I agree. I appreciate it. I'd much rather know, absorb it, and move on than, you know, fester
Yeah.
any anger or
Yeah. And I
and
think, oh,
I was just gonna I feel blessed that I have somebody to do that with.
yeah. And I think a big part of that is also knowing the intention behind it
Yes.
and knowing that I know that you're never going to be trying to hurt me. I know that you're never going to be trying to make me upset or push me down a notch, or I just know that
Yes.
even if sometimes it rubs me the wrong way or I don't love what you had to say, like I know that every time that you say something to me, it's out of care.
Yes.
And that helps.
Yes. I agree. And same with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like I said, I appreciate somebody telling me that because it does make you stop and think before you say something to somebody. It just gives you a perspective.
Yeah. And I think that as well as communicating, it's also like truly listening. And I think sometimes
Mm.
when we are so upset or wrapped up in our own thoughts and feelings, it can be really hard to actually hear what the other person is saying because you're coming to a conversation with, this is how I already feel, or this is what I already think. And you really have to step back and hear the other person and not just pick out what is triggering you or pick out what is they're saying that makes you feel better, but like truly hear them.
Yeah. And that's been a good big lesson for me because sometimes I don't hear. I've already have my script in my head what I'm gonna say. And
Yeah. I think that used to be in like those middle school, high school days, like such a huge issue for both of us.
Mhm.
Like being so strong in our own standpoint, like the amount of times I feel like, but did you hear what I said? Like, do you understand where I'm coming from? Like, oh my gosh, the amount of times we've had those like little sit down powwows, and I'm like, but
Round and around.
do you get it? And dad just, oh, we get it. Shut up.
We hear you.
Uh,
Yeah, I've learned so much. As I'm sure every parent has. I always said, when you have a kid, where's my book? Let me look up. Okay, what am I supposed to answer to this? What's the correct thing to say? Is she allowed to do this? Is it acceptable? Because sometimes those instincts are, you know,
yeah.
not always quite right.
And while I would say that the amount that we get on each other's nerves or have an argument is like way less,
Way, yeah.
like it still happens. And I think that we're just in a really good spot to just kind of like you said, if you felt like you didn't communicate exactly what you wanted, like revisiting the conversation and having it. And sometimes it involves arguing, sometimes it involves crying, but I just feel like they don't fester. Like
Yeah.
we have it and it's over with, versus when I feel like when we would have these like little tiffs over and over in high school and in middle school, it was like they built on each other,
Yes.
and it was like never actually over
Until the explosion.
because we're mad about 25 different
Right.
things.
Then there'd be like an explosion over something super
Yeah.
ridiculous. And then you said, and you did.
Right. Well,
And
you
all
remember that,
that.
and you remember that. Like, I feel like we never, one, we're not arguing nearly to nearly the extent, but two, like, I just feel like we have these conversations, and then it's like, okay,
Appreciate it.
cool.
Love you.
Yeah.
Move on. And I feel like we kind of know each other. Well, we know each other, but you know when you're upset about something completely different, to
Yeah.
just don't even have that conversation now because
Right.
you're over here and I'm over here. So let's just meet when we can. But and most of the time it's not even,
No.
sleep on it, and I don't even think about a lot of it anymore.
Yeah.
But I think we're really in tune with each other.
And I think in that same vein, it's been, we are alike in a lot of ways, and we like a lot of the same things, but we're also really different in a lot of ways. And so I think we do a really good job of coming together on the things that we do enjoy doing or talking about together, and kind of letting the other person have the thing that's
Definitely.
separate,
Definitely.
and not feeling like you have to like everything I like and I have to like everything you like, because that's just never going to
You
happen.
can't, right? And you don't want it to be, because we're learning from each other all the time.
Yeah, which is really nice. I think you had alluded to, now, like, I live in Texas, you live in Delaware, and so we have to be a lot better about communication, not just to stay in touch and know what's going on, but when we are together, being really clear about expectations for the visit and what we want to do, or what other plans we have, or what else is on our minds. Because I think when I first moved away and would come back, it was hard because you and dad would have kind of a idea of what the visit would look like, and I would have an idea of the visit what the visit would look like, and they were not the same idea, and that just ended up with people having hurt feelings or missed opportunities to spend time together. And so it's also being really clear when you do have time together of like, what is that going to look like?
I agree. And your dad's very good about saying, so when you come home, who are you going to visit? What are you doing? Where are you going to be? Because I feel like I'm a little more flexible in that area. But
yeah, but we also get to spend more time together.
We do.
Than I get to spend with dad.
It's true. Yeah. Because when you're here, I try to be home.
Yeah. And then I would say, like, the last few things that we've done a lot of work on since I was in middle school, I'm sure you were doing some before, but like really working through healing trauma and emotions, and making sure that we're not putting our stuff on each other.
Yes.
And that's through NET, theta healing, a bunch of different modalities of really working through and understanding ourselves, so that we can be in a place, like you said, of I really understand you, you really understand me, and then we really understand ourselves, so that we can approach these situations in such a different way than we did before.
I agree. And I love the journey we've been going on. And I love the journey you're on, because it's been very helpful for me. And all these podcasts, every time she has a podcast, she'll have somebody, and I'm like, oh, I want to do that. Let's do that. Can we, from Darian, which we're getting ready to work out with, to Emily, the theta healer. I feel like everyone, now we're doing the ozone treatment.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. There's been so many great introductions of new modalities to work on. And I've been really trying to go inside and finding my peace and who I am, which I never really did. I feel like you live in this world with living according to what everybody else expects of you.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I love these, get a chance, go listen to these podcasts, because I hope you get inspired too.
Thanks.
Because yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. Well, wrapping it up, what is one piece of advice that you would give your younger self?
Chill out. Just enjoy it. Enjoy your life and enjoy your time and learn as much as you can.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for chatting.
Well, thanks. This has been fun.
Yeah, love you.
Love you too.